the Hooswhere podcast. I'm your host, Chase Minifield. We're live in New York City. And Max, my co-host, is on here. What's up, Max?
What's up, world? Coming to you live, season 4, episode second half. We'll see where this goes. But it's good to see everybody. Happy to be back.
We have a special guest on today. Ashley Mays has served as Chief of Place and Real Estate at Newark Alliance, where she is responsible for catalyzing investment development opportunities in Newark. She brings nearly 20 years of experience in commercial real estate. Prior to Newark Alliance, was a senior vice president and head of leasing in the Brooklyn Navy Yard. And before that was with the Durst Organization and SL Green Realty Corporation. Is that right?
That's right.
All right. So welcome, Ashley, to the podcast.
What a resume.
I had to read it. Some people you gotta read. Yeah. Some people you gotta read it. Some people you can just go to the top.
You can go to the top of that.
Yeah. So no.
I know. I have to deliver now.
Yeah. So we appreciate you jumping on here.
Thanks for having me.
So where should we start? Like, where are you from?
I'm from New Jersey.
Yeah.
Not far. Born and raised Jersey girl. And back in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Most of my career has been in New York, but I'm really happy to be back in Jersey, living in Jersey, and but yeah.
That's Jersey, straight up. So what made you come down to UVA? Like, seems like you passed a lot of good schools coming down the road to University of Virginia.
Yeah, a couple things. One, I wanted to get away from home. Like most kids, you just want to experience something new. But I wanted to stay drivable distance, and I was a practical kid still. I'm pretty practical, and so I wanted to focus on public schools, but University of California was out, not drivable. Michigan, weather, no. North Carolina, not so drivable in one shot to back to Jersey. So UVA, from a practical standpoint, was like, this is actually, probably from a geographic point of view, somewhere I should look. And then actually one of my sister's best friends from high school went to UVA, and he was smart, and I'm like, well, Steve went there, I can't go wrong.
Yeah.
So it became on top of my list pretty quickly. And then I figured, I would apply to a couple of, New York schools, Columbia, Barnard, and then Rutgers. Rutgers in Jersey is a great state school, and so that was kind of like my field.
So what took us over the top?
It was that quintessential, campus vibe,
Did you go down for spring fling? Because that's what both people are telling us.
Yes, I did. I did.
That's what hooked you in there.
Frankly, I did early acceptance back in the day when that was a thing. So at that point, I was
already in.
But I did the spring break thing, and I'd known about it before, and so I knew that the Black community was strong, and so it was just a good fit.
Good fit. Well, we're happy that you became a Wahoo.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So how was your experience in totality at UVA? Was it any bit of a culture shock at all with showing up on campus and being in that environment?
Yeah, no. From a culture shock point of view, no. I do feel like there were some things early on that really helped the transition, though. Kind of being away from home and not going, like, I didn't play a sport, so I didn't have like going into it like a crew.
Yeah.
So peer advisor program at the Office of African American Affairs was really important for me, and just kind of like making sure that I had I just felt like I was scaffolded with support. But otherwise, it was, there's a lot of UVA alum and folks in Jersey, so I kind of quickly realized that I knew some people from around. And I think there were 3 other people from my high school that year that I wasn't that went to UVA. Yeah,
So were you always focused with real estate going in? Is that because there wasn't a big real estate program you did? It's one of the things that Jason and I always talk about, and we're not upset with, but wish they had a big one. That I know they're going on it now. But what was like that area of focus when you started, or?
No, not at all. I didn't find real estate until after I graduated. And I did not touch real estate at all during my experience at UVA.
So what did you study?
I was on a marketing track, and I thought I wanted to do brand management, and just thought that either. I knew that advertising probably wasn't my thing. I wanted a kind of a more, focus on control of the business rather than just so focused on advertising. But yeah, I thought I was on a marketing track, and
that was in McIntyre?
Yeah, exactly.
It was. Did you, when you first showed up, did you was like, I was going to do marketing and I'm going McIntyre, or that kind of like transition?
I knew going in that I wanted to apply for the comm school.
Yeah.
They
sold that to us at the from a football standpoint. They sold us on the comm school, and then we realized that we was not able to do it because it was in the middle of practice. Like most of the classes was in practice.
I see.
So
well, you could do it. They said that practice is optional, but service started. So they're like,
nah. So
do whatever you want to do. We can't tell you not to go to class.
Yeah.
But the comm school is a good recruiting tool.
Yeah.
They use it. I want to see those numbers from a football standpoint of like how many people are coming because they want to get into the comm school and how many people they actually put into that comm school.
I know one person, Paul Simmons, and who's the other one? Fuller. Those are the only two people I know that went to the comm school and played.
Well, shout out to Rondé Barber. He just made the NFL Hall of Fame. And he was a comm school guy.
Yes, he was.
So that's dope. Okay, so you said you knew you were going to do that. How was your comm school experience in general in McIntyre?
Comm school was great. It was super intense, and I was one of the. Frankly, backing up, going in, for everyone listening will know that you apply to the comm school in your second year, so it's an upperclassmen program, and so the first 2 years you're taking prerequisites, and I also minored in Spanish, so my studies were really focused on the prereqs and Spanish the first couple of years, and like some of those prerequisite courses like really kicked my butt. A lot of the content just didn't come naturally. Like accounting was hard for me, and computer science was hard for me. So it was not easy. But then once I got in, and then so once I got in, then it was kind of like, okay, I'm here. I had to kind of overcome a little bit of that insecurity, feeling like, I struggled a little bit at the beginning with, some of my prereqs, but he was really strong on leadership stuff and involvement, and so getting over that and then getting in, I really did feel like, everyone was behind me.
Mm-hmm.
So then I was able to kind of shed some of that kind of heaviness I felt at the beginning.
How was the diversity in the comm school in your time frame there?
Oh, terrible.
Terrible.
Terrible. Yes, it's still.
Did you at least meet the same percentages as the university?
Yeah.
Or is it probably tiered list?
Good question. I don't know. But I would say it's less.
Yeah.
I would say it's less. It's something that I talk. We'll talk about this, I'm sure, a little bit. But it's something I talk about, not necessarily with respect to McIntyre, but I am really focused in the work at the Center for Real Estate in the Built Environment on, addressing kind of focus on diversity and recruiting folks into the world of real estate, where there also is, obviously a representation problem that is being addressed, but it just keeping the conversation on top of minds.
Yeah, that's a big conversation. We're definitely going to dive into that one.
Yeah.
For sure. So what were some of the other leadership things you did while you were at University of Virginia?
Black Commerce Student Network, I was involved in different capacities and different leadership roles. I was president 1 year. I was really interested in Spanish, and working abroad, I really wanted to incorporate that into my career. So I immersed myself into student, Latin American student organizations. There was one called Simón Bolívar, and I got to. I think it's probably still around. I'm not sure. But in any case, I got to speak, practice Spanish, and kind of cultural stuff, dancing, and that was also a way for me to kind of just meet more people and just widen my experience. Spanish was a great way for me to just like not be so comfortable focused, and like I really wanted a just a real far-reaching experience. And I know some folks are really just like really super focused on the business stuff, and I am into it too, but it was important for me to kind of see other stuff.
See more of the campus. I think that's one of the things I regretted, and I usually talk about this, is the fact of like in the football circle, like you just only see the football guys.
Yeah.
Everybody's in psych, social, and anthro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You don't really get the networking experience like that. So definitely one of the things I definitely regretted from that experience. Do you have any regrets from your time at UVA?
I never took an art history class, and that haunts me.
You can always go back, online classes, a big thing.
That's one of the things I think about, but no, I did study abroad.
That's cool.
I did that between my first and second year. I went to Valencia, and I since I knew I wanted to do comp school, I knew that was going to be difficult to pull a semester study abroad experience off, but I wanted some time there, and I knew that the comp school did do some kind of programs over winter break. But so I did a summer in Valencia, and I know they're celebrating, I think, 30 years of that program this year. Unfortunately, I can't swing my trip to Valencia this year, but that was a super pivotal experience for me. That study abroad, and really just opened, just opened up the door for me to just want to further explore the world.
Definitely, I can understand that. So, post graduation, what does that experience look like for you? You sitting there with 20,000 job opportunities, or what does it look like from your perspective?
So I did the whole on-grounds recruiting thing. It was super intense, and because I was a marketing track and I was on that international, super international focus, I got one job offer that was a great one. Luckily, I only need one. And that was for Rolls Royce. They had a rotational program, and that was the first year that they recruited on grounds.
Okay.
And they
You get any discounts?
No.
It's a big car guy over here.
And it's not for their cars, for their jet engines. Because actually,
can't do
Rolls
nothing
Royce
with that.
Motors
There you go. Can't do nothing
is
with
actually
that.
was.
Okay.
I don't know if it's still BMW, but at the time it was under BMW.
Got it.
So yes,
Okay.
so if you're in the market for a Learjet or something.
I don't do that one. I don't do that.
Got your market yet?
If Chase can get this company sold, I might be in the market then. But until then, I'll stick to the cars.
A couple years, 2 more years.
There you go.
But yeah, so that
So you went straight in that. That's a marketing job, right?
It was not a marketing job.
Okay.
It was a rotational program where you rotated to the different departments like contracts and then sales. There was a finance rotation, and then you would land in the department that was the best fit, and go from there. And so
What department you went in?
commercial Latin American commercial airlines, and which was the obvious perfect fit. It was a dream job.
Yeah.
So my clients were like Mexicana and TAM and Aeromexico, and got to travel a lot. And it was
Cool.
so I was based in Northern Virginia, and yeah, it was an amazing first experience, first job.
So when does real estate come into this? When do you get into this real estate track?
Yeah. So it was probably about a year and a half into that job at Rolls Royce, and just at that was like 2003. We were in the midst of a real estate boom on the upswing and tech boom, and I was just reading a lot about real estate, and I liked my time at Rolls Royce, but it was up and down in terms of the work. Like there was lots of downtime, lots of time with just me sitting in a cubicle, and I was just much of the time I was not inspired. And although I was just really highly supported and encouraged, I had peers that I worked with that were great. I just knew that there was something else for me, and so I took a leap of faith. I quit that job. I asked my parents if I could move back to Montclair and move in with them, and somehow they agreed. And I decided I was going to just embark on this journey into like finding a job in real estate. And so.
It was coming from like just reading things up? Or?
Knew nothing.
Yeah.
I knew absolutely nothing. And it was hardcore networking.
Yeah.
And after it was about 6 months, I landed my first job at SL Green as a leasing associate. And that was where just like that's where it started.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So where are you at now? Explain what do you do now with real estate? And I got a couple questions I'm gonna hit you with, so be prepared.
Yeah. Okay. So I've actually recently had a transition in my career. So the first I would say about 16 years or so, I was really focused, or maybe a little more than that, really focused on commercial office and retail leasing. That was really where my career was built. However, I really started to become interested in how real estate is a kind of a critical component of the strategy to support Black and Brown entrepreneurs, economic development, and how real estate can, the marriage of real estate and economic development, and closing the racial wealth gap through ownership and entrepreneurship. So I got my toes wet in that at the Brooklyn Navy Yard. In that gig, I ran leasing for the yard and also helped kind of reimagine what their strategy was around supporting MWBEs and their focus on equity. And then now what I do at the Newark Alliance is yet an even deeper role in economic development, where I'm looking at commercial corridors and how kind of just wraparound approach of development, placemaking, investment into small businesses, engagement with corporate kind of anchor institutions and obviously municipal government, like how we can revitalize commercial corridors equitably, while also giving opportunity for wealth creation to local Newarkers and underrepresented folks.
Okay, so
before you jump in there, what is equitable?
Yeah.
Let's talk from that standpoint.
Yeah. So when I think of equitable in the context of what's going on in Newark, I think about the fact that Newarkers often have been left out of the conversation when it comes to development, and there have been different waves of development in Newark's past, and we're in another boom that's really taking off right now. So I think about what are the opportunities for Newarkers to just, to really have a seat at the table with respect to ownership, with respect to kind of centering local entrepreneurship.
Yeah. So is it more so, because I know in Kentucky, where I'm from or whatever, a lot of the conversation is around like getting people contracts when they have these large development jobs, like the smaller entrepreneurs and things of that nature. Like the guy that does he can do lawn services. Can he do something over here? You know what I'm saying? So they're trying to hit this percentage of spend for the actual project.
Yes.
So that's what we kind of consider to be equitable. But we've never talked about it from the ownership side of things. In that perspective of seeing equity on that side. So that's an interesting conversation to me. Where did you first kind of see like the inequities in real estate and start to build this passion of like wanting to try to fix these gaps?
So inequities in real estate. Number one, I think I didn't really think about it in the context of my commercial leasing work. But one of the things, like I think when you're just moving around as a black person or a person of color, particularly black women. And some of these spaces in Midtown Manhattan, when I'm just like walking around and showing space in my buildings, like, where are the people of color? Like, in the elevator, where is everybody? How come the people who I'm renting space to are like, where are the women-owned businesses? Where are the black-owned businesses? So starting to think about that and like think about, well, how come there's people not in these spaces? And we all know the power of proximity, and even just the power of just renting space in a building and all of the collaboration that comes and the opportunity that can come by just being in the right space. We talked a lot about that at the Brooklyn Navy Yard, and how collaboration among the businesses of the yard was something that really helped to propel businesses forward. And we had a statistic where 71% of businesses at the Navy Yard collaborated with each other. And so thinking about, okay, well, there's just people just not in the space. So that was kind of one thing that just started thinking about, and thinking about who's owning the companies, who's holding the real estate, who's investing in these projects. Just trying to, starting to think through those questions. But also my time at the yard when I started to dig into this stuff, realizing that, obviously ownership, home ownership, and real estate ownership, commercial real estate ownership for small businesses is often the way for that people are building wealth. And it's also a way that a lot of entrepreneurs are able to remain stable in their businesses and avoid getting displaced from, from development. So,
what have you seen as been some of the issues that is the reasons why you don't see these black-owned businesses with the access to these opportunities?
It's the age-old, topic that we hear everywhere. It's access to capital. It's people who don't have the network of wealthy friends or family. They might not have even come from a home where they grew up with a family that owned their home in the first place. So like all of this kind of builds to the fact that business owners that are not having a stake in the buildings where they're setting up shop. And in Newark, the dynamic is even trickier, where you think of a city like Newark, and from the outside looking in, maybe the perception is that it's sleepy, or that there's still, a lot of development that needs to happen, which, in some respects is true, but, the rents are strong, particularly in certain commercial corridors. Retail rents and office rents are strong. And so landlords who often have held these properties for ages and have no basis in the building, they often will just sit on spaces and not even rent them, because it's just not worth it, because they don't want to invest in the TI or the other aspects.
It's very interesting. I've never actually really thought about it from that perspective of like, there's not very many black-owned businesses or color that disadvantage, any type of disadvantaged entrepreneur like that I see in like commercial real estate spaces with prime real estate opportunity. You know what I'm saying? And I never even heard that conversation, honestly, as far as them trying to take steps to get people into those spaces.
Yeah.
Just see an empty building. You see like 2 or 3 companies in there, and that's it.
Yeah. There's some really interesting new models that we're in Newark interested in exploring with respect to how we can get access into ownership of some bigger projects for just regular folks, and kind of a communal kind of ownership, or kind of a REIT kind of model.
So for that, do you feel that's something that's like on a government level, like they need to step in and be like, hey, these are the steps we need to take, kind of like, when you're at MBEs, like a lot of bigger cities are like, hey, you got to use 60% of any city project has to be, minority business or SWAM. Do you feel for like doing maybe these REITs, or even, the big thing now is, affordable housing, low income housing. A lot of developers are shifting to that because you can get the government money to subsidize what, to create the equity that you need to reach, because interest rates are so high, borrowing money is so expensive. The slow affordable income housing is on the rise because the government subsidies make it work. So,
Right.
do you feel it's in the government to step in and be like, hey, well, most of these people are, minorities or low disadvantaged people living here. Is there a way to incorporate them into ownership of the property, or do you feel it's a corporate thing? Like, hey, we as a corporation, as an investment firm, we should be looking to also have the community a part of this.
Well, in Newark, we are super collaborative, and we think that it's everyone's role. We think that it's the city's role, that there's a space for local, corporate anchor institutions, and there's certainly, a philanthropic community that's interested in supporting these types of projects. So, yeah, I think it needs to come from all three angles. Yeah.
Are there any initiatives that you guys have kind of like been discussing that you could bring up here?
I wish that I could at this moment.
All right, we won't spill the tea yet.
If we did this in, maybe 2 months, more months, and I'd be in a position to share. But we're thinking through all of these things with respect to, whether it's the communal ownership, whether it's city or philanthropic support.
I do like that, like crowd sharing, investing, type of style.
Yes.
Is that even currently existing anywhere in real estate space?
So there's a gentleman named Lanier Robinson who is he's a professor at Rutgers, Newark, but he also has a company called Chicago Trend, where they invest in shopping centers in predominantly Black communities around the country as a catalyst for neighborhood revitalization while centering Black and Brown entrepreneurship for occupying the spaces there. And I think that is a really interesting model. And he crowdsources. So they recently went to contract for a property in Baltimore and crowdsourcing a chunk for for investment, small investment.
Yeah, that's awesome. So much that should be more prevalent for sure.
Yes.
Because these major assets, we all know where they're owned.
And if you just leave a slice, I am just so interested in how we can how can we just leave a slice for just regular folks, and the long-term impact that could have for families would just be remarkable. So I know that there are a lot of people interested in seeing how we can figure that out.
No, that's definitely pretty solid. So how has your experience been in a real estate space, being a woman of color?
It's challenging. I feel like it's. I'm feeling it, frankly, more now. I think as I'm more senior in my career than I was at the beginning, because when you're young, everyone's young, and you kind of just get lumped into the same group. But I continuously, was othered, and would find it difficult with some folks, and this is not across the board, but with some folks trying to make those connections with brokers or that kind of thing, which is very predominantly white male, and I would feel a bit out of place, but over time really just like building my confidence, and you just power through. But I definitely I've had like ebbs and flows where I'm feeling like, is this the right space for me? And question whether or not it's kind of is this all worth it?
Yeah.
And now working kind of in the economic development space where it's much more diverse. It's refreshing, frankly, to be working with predominantly women, lots of women of color. It's a fun place to be.
I think it's always so important to have like representation at these like old boys clubs, business structures. You know what I'm saying? Like we have a couple people in Kentucky that like we might have like a whole board full of white male individuals, and then you have one black lady who's in there trying to make change, trying to get job opportunities, trying to get like RFPs in front of minority contractors, and that stuff means so much to those businesses that get those opportunities, because for the most part it's the education standpoint. You don't even know where to look, you don't even know where to go, you don't know where the opportunity is. You know what I'm saying? So somebody being at that table and saying, hey, this is coming across the table, let's put it over here. I think that's so important. So the fact that you are in those positions and being able to see the inequity, and because most of the time these people, they can't see the inequity, they're just like.
I think that's a big thing you mentioned, Chase, especially stuff recently where I live now and getting into some of these environments with people. It's not that they don't necessarily want to hire them. It's you go with what you're comfortable with. And they've been around, they're a little older. They have a group of people that they work with that just happen to always look like them. So when you can bring someone that looks like us in, who has a group that looks like us, it's not that they're opposed to working with them. It's like they honestly just don't know where to look. And especially on a lot of these larger deals, I mean, it's just you can't take a chance on a $100 million deal for somebody you've never worked with or vouched with. So having people that do have that network of minority businesses, I think is a bigger part. More so, a lot of people just think that they just can't get in there. It's just having people on the board that represent us that can vouch for us is one of the bigger parts, really.
Yeah, for sure.
So are you doing any investing yourself, like personal investing?
I'm at the moment no, and I need to get back in the game. I had some personal kind of investments that I sold, and I'm looking for partners.
You're looking for partners?
Yeah.
Looking for partners.
That's the name of the
You
game.
got some COVID dollars? Okay.
The name of the game.
You interested in out-of-town partners? Okay, we'll talk later. Always. We'll definitely. Chase knows. I'm always over here pitching to invest in something on the show.
So do you do? Have you been looking at bigger things? Because obviously you've worked on larger, bigger project things. Do you find like it's hard to look at smaller opportunities?
No. I'm interested. I think that it would just be so fun to kind of pull together kind of a syndicate of, Black and brown folks, women, kind of going in on something that's kind of like a mid-sized type of project. I love smaller projects. I owned like a brownstone in Harlem and loved that. That was fine, and lived there, and loved that kind of thing. But I just think that it's this is like the time to kind of just make some more moves.
Make some bigger waves.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Give the big two.
Yeah.
There you go.
What advice would you give to someone who is, let's say, at UVA currently, looking to get into real estate, maybe a little bit on the edge, think they may not fit into that group type situation? What kind of advice would you give, looking back on your career, how you would kind of maneuver?
Well, at UVA, number one is to follow the Center for Real Estate and the Built Environment.
There you go.
That's like...
Say that again.
If that existed while we were there, it just would have been a game changer. So that's number one. I happen to be the chair of the student support subcommittee, and Chase is on that team as well. And we are here to connect with students. I mean, this is what we're here for. And so that, number one, that. But number two is, and which I wish I had taken this advice, is don't forget the UVA network as you kind of advance in your career, because there were several years where I was just out of the loop from UVA. I just kind of thought that I was just doing this by myself. and I was just like, not forgetting that there was a network of folks who were cheering for me, invested in my success. So I think I could have had more mentors earlier on if I had just remembered the UVA network.
Mentorship is crazy, and the network that UVA creates.
Yes.
I didn't really, before I even got on the board, I didn't know that there was this many like large players in the commercial real estate space, which is crazy.
Me either.
Yeah.
Me either. I really did not appreciate how many folks were in real estate, and so so that will change as the center grows. But I'm excited that real estate is really going to be a kind of a topic of front and center on grounds.
Let's talk about the center a little bit. So, from your role as the head of the VP Student Success on the board.
Vice chair or something?
Yeah, vice chair. She's at the top. She's at the top. I report to her. You know what I'm saying? So, above me. So, what are kind of the initiatives that we're working on?
Yeah. So, one is trying to get more connectivity between the student groups and the board. There's ViewRec and Darden Real Estate Club as kind of the hallmark organizations for undergrad and graduate students. So building more bridges with those groups and more collaboration. So that's that's probably number one importance, and that's I think the right mechanism for the board to kind of keep ears on the ground of what's topics of concern for students.
Were you a part of any of those when you were in school?
No, because real estate wasn't on my radar.
Okay.
So I.
You got the same experience as us.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I had no idea.
No.
We wish so. Yeah, it would have been nice to have that group around.
Yeah.
Still waiting for my invite from Chase to be on the board. That's okay. We'll talk later.
Hey, you talking to the right person.
I'll let you know when some slots open up. We were actually just talking about that in a executive committee meeting. So I think we'll be learning more about it.
You want to preview that conversation, Chase?
So getting more resources for industry resources into student hands, memberships to ULI or CREW, which is a women's network organization. So to get folks embedded into larger industry associations early on, and helping to curate tours and site visits and that kind of thing. I think is really important to kind of bring the work to life and just kind of touch and feel projects and kind of put them in place.
Okay. So last question how would you position yourself, how would you say is the best way to position yourself in the real estate space if that's where you want to be? You think it's heavier networking? You think it's more so understanding the details of the actual transactions? How do you position yourself to be successful in this field if you're a current student?
It's networking. You'll learn what you need to learn from your working with. Every whatever discipline you're interested in, you're going to be taught kind of the tools from that company. But it's getting the foot in the door and using the network, and I think that's the power of the center and kind of formalizing this real estate network that we have, and leveraging those connections.
Awesome. Well, one more question for me. If you could, blank check, just kind of what would be, you don't got to go deep in it, what would be your next project? Would it be mixed use development, apartments with commercial space, straight commercial, straight residential, or would you even do kind of these big companies doing single families in a Charlotte area type and own a bunch of single families renting them out?
This is a hard question. I'll answer it by saying this.
Okay.
Recently in Newark, I went to a project called Makerhoods, which is a combination of residential and light manufacturing space. And it's kind of a mission-driven project where the developer will kind of give a really attractive package deal to an entrepreneur to kind of live and work and have their kind of studio space there. And I think that's super powerful. Like if the Brooklyn Navy Yard would never have residential, but I feel like if like a project like the Yard had residential that was affordable for entrepreneurs, that would just be like really, really powerful. Because lots of artists and art makers are paying 2 rents, and so to think about how a business could be catalyzed by support early on, I think that's really interesting.
I seen a dope like situation in DC where this one lady she owns a decent piece of land and her business is on there, but she opened up the rest of the piece of land. I think she put like shipping containers, like little setups in there, and she gives minority-owned businesses free office space there. So
Cool.
yeah, it's on her land. I guess it brings traffic to her space as well.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win in that situation. So I thought that was really cool.
That's super
What she was doing from that perspective.
Yeah.
So where can people reach you at?
I'm on LinkedIn, Ashley Mays, and LinkedIn is the best way to find me.
You open for mentors?
Yes,
Is your
always.
inbox open for mentors?
Always. I didn't even talk
mentees.
about mentorship, but mentorship was both on the receiving end and giving, and a big part of my time at UVA and after that as well. So yes, please.
Perfect. Got a lot to talk about.
Great.
Oh man! So the final thing we do before we close is it's rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So it's like 10 questions. It's this or that. You choose what you prefer.
Tell me about this.
No, it's off the cuff. It's off the cuff right here. All right. So they're real chill. So hotels or Airbnbs?
Oh, right now I'm feeling hotels.
All right. Listening to books or reading books?
Oh, listening. I have 2 young kids. It's like I can't stop listening. Audible's my best friend.
I'll say go to the movies or Netflix.
Netflix.
All right. Cable or stream?
Stream.
IG stories or IG posts?
Stories.
Watch the movies or read the news? Oh no, watch the movie. Watch the news or read the news?
Read the news.
Read the news. Would you rather start a podcast or write a book?
Podcast.
Apple or Android?
Apple.
Detroit pizza or New York pizza?
New York.
All right. And if you were moving, would you hire a moving company or would you get your friends to help you move?
Higher.
Let's go. That's what I'm talking
All
about.
right. That is it. We are out. Appreciate it, Ashley. Thank you.
Thanks.